I think it's really wrong when you have teachers that are being expected to use their own money. It's just absolutely wrong. But if a school district wants a trial, they should be encouraged to then get in touch with the tool. It's never not the right time to start something, you know? What's the worst that can happen? If you build something with purpose, you know, people have a tendency to gravitate to that community as well. I feel quite strongly about, you know, kind of people that have communities because they keep them going with giving them sort of free stuff and free merchandise. That's not what a community is about. Discord is not for everybody. We know that that's been useful for early AI adopters and gaming and platform and games-based solutions. So I think we just have to find what works in the right kind of area for you.
Okay, so thanks so much for joining me, Louise. I think we're going to talk about a topic that's very close to both of our hearts. We're equally excited about both of these, community. But you have just a far longer track record, a more impressive track record than I have. So I think there's loads to discuss and learn from you. Maybe first, for those that don't know you, who are you and what are you working on and what excites you about community?
Thanks, Riso, and thank you so much for welcoming me onto your podcast. So I currently am the Chief Community Officer for ThingLink, which is a solution for creating immersive learning, which is just phenomenal. You know, think 360s on any device, which you can annotate and add 3D objects. And yeah, it is really kind of at the sharper end of the stick when it comes to innovation. And then I'm also working for 2 EdTech startups, one of which is Mini Course Generator, which is delightful. It's the easiest way to create micro-learning courses, monetize them. And then the next one is called KnowUp, which is just-in-time learning, which is where you can create a pop-up kind of widget that's meeting the people that are on your website or your product at the right place, at the right time, and that can be matching what they're looking at. And then there's some education which is kind of landing for them at the right point. So yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. But I've been involved in community since day dot, really. My first degree was community and youth studies, which I did at the University of Reading. And that was really about what impacts on youth culture and the way that young people live, learn and work. And my whole goal and my whole kind of driver, raison d'etre, was about kind of making the best conditions for learning that we can possibly create for young people. That was what was driving me. And that was born out of a quite a difficult experience at school myself, and kind of going off the rails and becoming a young teenage mum and young teenage single mum, and really kind of pulling myself back to kind of get into university, and started doing youth and community work voluntarily, and then ended up kind of going into that as a degree. And in every job that I've had since then, which has been, you know, since, well, it's 30 years now, every element of my career has had a community role, whether that's helping change, systemic thinking in a school community, building a community of practice. And then when I kind of moved into EdTech, when the kind of read, write, web became available, that was about creating communities to support young people through e-safety and adopting tech. And then with teachers who were feeling alone adopting tech, and bringing them together so that they didn't feel like the only one in their schools that were waving a flag saying, this is really important, we should start using, you know, digital tools and increasing digital learning. So yeah, community has been, you know, a core thread throughout my entire career, and I love it. I really love it.
Oh, wow. And is there, because you're working on multiple things at the same time, is there overlap in these different communities?
Yeah, I think so. And I do think that when you have community members, and you see this across multiple EdTech tools, you often get the same people that want to join the same communities. So someone that's heavily involved in Google Education groups. They might be involved in Canva and a Canvassador. They might be a Microsoft Innovative Expert. There might be an Apple Distinguished Educator. They might be in the ThingLink community, because you do get people that naturally want to be part of those communities because it gives them a real sense of belonging, and because they like the diversity of different EdTech tools, but they also like to be at the forefront of kind of trying to be in the kind of leading edge of social change, I guess, and the way that they can
Hmm.
see that applying to education. So there's lots of crossover. There's crossover in personalities, and there's crossover in the kind of things that you want to do for those communities as well. So there's the way that you engage with them, I think, is a good crossover.
And what is community to you? Because community is, well, some people also use it kind of as a buzzword. So I'm trying to pin a bit through that. So how do you define community and like what is it?
Yeah, so I think that, as I've mentioned, communities have always existed, but they've, because of technology, have become so much more easier for people to join, because, you were based around a geographical location, and we didn't really have the tools to do that. So community for me has always been about bringing people together that have got a common purpose, and they really have a shared kind of vision about what they want to do. And it might be different from the communities that they live in, the communities that they work in, that they've got a kind of niche sense of belonging about a topic. And it's about bringing all those people together. And I'm doing this, like I want to hug everyone and bring them in and,
Hmm.
kind of feel a sense of belonging with like-minded people. And that's what community has always been for me. It's about kind of being with the people that I wanna be with, and that you feel that you've got something genuinely you can offer to the other people in that community, and you're learning as well. So it's really give and take. It's really kind of, mutually kind of beneficial, and I think that's really important.
Hmm. And because we have started a community with Symvol as well. It's not necessarily an easy thing to build a community. Where what's the best point to start?
Yeah. So I think that there's the kind of community that I'm talking about, which is really grounded, really authentic, and then I think that particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, particularly, you've seen that, particularly in education technology, that communities have been an extension of marketing. And I think that that's kind of quite disingenuous to the community. Um, but I also see it from the point of view that a community is really kind of essential if you want to see your product in practice, and you want people that have got the time to use it, play with it, make it work, make it fail, try and break it, try and hack it, try and do all those things. And that's that kind of feedback loop for you as well that makes your product successful. And I think that you're right, it's hard to start from zero. Um, but there's a really good film I used to love, and it's Wayne's World. It's one of my favorite films. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And Wayne's World is where he's putting on a festival. It's called Wayne's Stock, and he's like, if you build it, they will come. If you build something with purpose, you know, people have a tendency to gravitate to that community as well. So if you are building something and you're making it warm and you're making it really inviting and you're making it really exciting and it's really engaging, why not lean into some of those people that I've mentioned that genuinely like cross kind of community kind of membership? So it doesn't hurt to have a few people that are the movers and the shakers that can help you build that community from scratch. And platform does matter. So you want to make sure that it's accessible. You want to remove barriers to entry. So I think it's really tough at the moment because people are starting to move away from things that they use in their personal life for communities. And I mean, Facebook groups have been kind of like a traditional community But I think people are shying away from that now, A, because they don't want their login to be used for everything. They're going to get targeted ads. LinkedIn communities tried to launch a few years ago, and the groups, we used to use a hashtag on Twitter.
Mhm.
We won't touch Twitter now. It's just so different. So I think there are core principles to help you start your community, and that is low barriers to entry. Start out with purpose. Invite some people that you know might help you to grow it. Be willing to share, be transparent, be willing to open, be really clear about what your purpose is for that community. And if it's good, then people will come to it.
Mhm. Mhm. So curation is actually very important at the start, I think. Maybe also a bit later on.
Yeah, having some tools as well that can really, I like having a really good tech stack. And it's really funny because I'm a member of one of the communities that you created, which is an EdTech kind of founders and a movers and
Mhm.
this community. And it's just WhatsApp at the moment. But I remember being part of an EdTech community which is 20 years old, and it was for people at the sharper end of the stick. And we found each other by having blogs at the time, and you would see people would have like a blog list, and they would call it their blog roll of people to follow. So if you can kind of try and, you have that kind of recommendation of members, but curation, if that's what you were referring to, we remember having a wiki. We thought we were the best thing since sliced bread. We thought we were cutting edge because we had a wiki, and I was the wiki pixie, and we every week we kind of record our notes and that kind of thing. So yeah, having a few simple tools to kind of curate and be able to maybe aggregate some of the conversations and discussions and use those as a way for people to say, well, I agree with that. And I've seen that happening in that WhatsApp group that you started. So yeah, there's a few tools that can help you to do that to start.
Which platforms are you using, or which platforms are you think better suited for maybe the communities that you're building now? Like maybe it's also not a very clear answer in the sense that not every platform can work for every type of community either.
Yeah. I think if you had a magic wand, you and I could build the best community tool ever. Um, but I do think that some of the community tools that I've seen, like Mighty Networks or School or those kinds of ones, they there used to be a really good one called Ning, which was one of the first communities that I started years ago, and I actually know one of the founders. He's now working for ThingLink. Um, and I think if you have something that is, if you're an ed tech tool and you're building a community, you want single sign-on onto your product so that people haven't got to go away and create another login. So you're removing barriers. You've got to have accessibility tools built in as well. Something that can record, but also something that's not going to be really expensive for you to buy, because people have seen the writing on the wall and they're monetizing
Mhm.
platforms, our community, and they're monetizing it in layers by membership. And that really is quite sucks, to be honest. But that's just their tool and their platform. But if you had a magic wand, you would buy something that has got that kind of way of aggregating social learning conversations. You can comment on other people's comments. You can have threads. You'd have like an easy email solution as well. Google Groups used to be amazing for that. They used to be so good. Um, but even those get too big and too kind of unwieldy. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think there are different elements of tools that I would have as a wish list. I love the ease of Padlet for sharing your examples. You can embed videos, you can embed slides, you can embed thing links, you can have links, you can comment, you can give stars and a wish and those kinds of things. But ultimately, yeah, you need to find something that works, that aligns with your brand and your product. And if you're starting from scratch, then just a LinkedIn community and a hashtag is a good start, because LinkedIn is where people tend to play at the moment, particularly the people that are working at the
Hmm.
sharper end of the stick when it comes to innovation.
Hmm. And how do the communities differ between like mini course generator, between ThingLink, between Think Visual, maybe also, like all the different communities that you're part of? How are these different? How do people interact with each other on a different
Yeah.
basis or different format? Maybe some of them are text-based, I don't know. Yeah.
So, I've built communities around certification. So for ThingLink, we've got a ThingLink certified trainer program, and I really love it because it's not about quantity, it's about kind of the people that are there and that they feel that you're invested in them. So I've got a Facebook closed group for that. So you need to have completed the certification in order to be part of the community. And those kinds of conversations then are based around, I try and be really giving and give people love templates and links and things that are useful to them. It's not about swag. And I feel quite strongly about, kind of people that have communities because they keep them going with giving them sort of free stuff and free merchandise. That's not what a community is about. I think that people genuinely want to learn from each other. So social learning. Facebook closed groups tend to be a way to do that. I've got a Facebook group for ThingLink Education, which has got 6,000 kind of members. And then I've got a small group, which is the certified trainers, which has got about 50 to 60 people in who are contributing. And, we try and make sure that there's space for people to problem solve, troubleshoot. And that can be really helpful as well for people having a sense of contributing, or they find a good way of doing something, or something from another platform that helps. So Facebook has been really helpful in having a closed group. With the other platforms, what's really interesting is that we've got a Discord solution where we tag on to Discord communities, and the aspect of the platform that we've got, which is called KnowUp, um, means that you can have mini kind of academies in your Discord groups. And if you complete the training, then you get to go to a different Discord community. So it's layered. And we see that's really popular for gaming communities. So I'm involved
Hmm.
in creating communities. I'm also involved in creating the solution for communities as well. So yeah, Discord is not for everybody. We know that that's been useful for early AI adopters and gaming and platform and games-based solutions. So I think we just have to find what works in the right kind of area for you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you bring up Discord now, because we also initially tried it on Discord, but we're building something for educators, and we realize there's not a lot of educators active on Discord. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really big for gamers. And I was involved with Skybox, Blockade Labs, Skybox 360 AI image generation, and Discord. It was their bigger community because obviously Midjourney was Discord based.
Hmm.
So I think that's where you saw a lot of Discord communities spring up, was around AI generation and being able to use that for um, images like with Discord, or 3D images and objects. So yeah, Discord's a really interesting one.
And do you care about growth of the community? Is that even an objective?
Um, I don't. I would feel kind of quite superficial if it was just about the numbers. I think a community is on the strength of, whether people show up for each other. That's a real indicator of your community. Going back to your question about mini course generator, we've just got, because mini course generator is pretty new. Um, ThingLink is quite a mature startup, um, but we've got a mini course generator Facebook group. It's public, so you don't need to request to be a member. And we saw the best bit of community feedback, which was someone said, "It'd be really good if you could implement this feature." I fed that back to the dev team had it done that day. We were able to go back and say, "You said, we did." And I think that was just really heartwarming. We called that out as a really nice aspect. So yeah, it's really important to celebrate those wins and showcase those wins as, this is why we have community. It helps us to create a better product. It creates an environment where people feel it's safe to make suggestions. They're not going to get trolled. It's moderated, and we action things. So we actively listen to people. And then we have a webinar and we invite everyone on the webinar and celebrate their examples
Uh-huh.
as well. I love showcasing people's examples.
I remember speaking to the community lead of Lovable once, and she called it the Saturday night test. So if there's a group of people active on a Saturday night, then you know that it's working. Because if that's the place where you want to spend your Saturday evening, well, then you have a good community. Um, like how many educators are also in the communities, and what do they discuss?
Yeah, so on the ThingLink education one, there's about 6,000 or so. It was really interesting that when we used to use Twitter more prolifically, it was just hashtag. So, a community doesn't have to be a closed group. A community can be a hashtag because then you tend to kind of reach people further.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we don't tend to use Twitter anymore, and I haven't really found another solution like that. We had something like 21,000 people in Twitter on our ThingLink education page, but we then would use the hashtag. And it's really lovely when people, are genuinely proud of something that they've created, particularly if it's a student example that they've got permission to share or their own work that they want to share. We're helping to amplify their voices just as much as they're helping us to create a better product and help it land. So I really like the idea, that when educators want to share, it's not confined by the straight constraints of a group. They might share something on LinkedIn and tag you in, and then you can share it, and then you would follow it up and say, "We love this. Could we do a case study on your example? Can we do a webinar together? Have you thought about becoming a certified trainer?" And then, that unlocks kind of like different benefits as well. So I think it's really important that you tie in what those perks are to your community as well, if
Mm,
it's
yeah,
a closed community.
yeah. And like, what's your specific role on that? Because I'm asking, it's kind of your role to keep the community engaged and active, but also you don't want to be online the whole time, I guess.
No, no. I've always seen myself as a facilitator, and I am able to facilitate the community. It might be a little bit of administration, so it might be, kind of making sure that it's all functioning and that people are accessing it okay. Um, I try and make sure that I connect the dots between the so like I mentioned, somebody shared a really nice example of ThingLink, which is just outstanding. It's a college that's created an exhibition for students, and it's in VR and it's got 3D objects, and it's become a really, really nice cultural community assets, capital for the community. So, by that person sharing, you bring them in to the community, you can create a case study, do a webinar together, help them with any PD. And that helps them as well because they might be showcasing themselves. I mean, most of the educators that I know, and I don't really like the term influencer, but, they are looking to grow their own profiles in their own industries as well. They might know that they want into their career, they might want to go on and be part of an EdTech product or deliver training independently, consultancy independently. So yeah, it's really mutually beneficial for them as well. So I see my role as kind of connecting the dots between people and helping to elevate and showcase what they're doing as well. Um, I do the hosting of our webinars as well, so we have regular webinars, and I've got Claudia, who's one of our community members that just loves to be on all the webinars, and yeah, it's just a really nice way to be able to do that. If you're looking at it from a kind of EdTech tool perspective, then you might like to think about localization and languages. So if you've got a global community, then you want to make sure that you've got people that maybe take your product and make it land and produce nice examples of it in action in their local language, which helps you to increase your presence in that country. So, I try and think about a community as being global and not having kind of those barriers as well.
Hmm. And uh, a big topic in EdTech is also trying to get educators active, because they quite busy already, um, quite long hours already. Also, and that also makes it hard, um, a bit hesitant to use new tools or to sign up for yet another platform. How do you convince them, or how do you show the value?
'Cause that's really interesting because I think that firstly, you've got people in that school or the school district that try and gatekeep a kind of tech stack. So they don't want their teachers to use anything unless it's been GDPR checked, unless it's got not just GDPR, but what are the credentials around this in terms of what do they do for if it's free or freemium, why is it free or freemium?
Hmm.
There's kind of things that need to be asked. So having a free offering is always a good way to enable people or a free trial for people to dip their toes in. Um, I think that being really robust with your evidence as to why your solution is at the leading edge, what's the benefits for students, and we're just always in this process of change, aren't we? We're always changing. The way young people live, learn, and work, youth culture is changing day in, day out. There's always new tools, there's always new things. It's not always about trying the new shiny thing, is it? Um, so if you've got core principles as to why people are trying it out, why does it work? Is it accessible, for example? How do you then show those examples to people that inspire, that enable the gatekeepers then to kind of say, yeah, this is great, we'll use it. So I think that it's a difficult one to answer. It depends on whether your EdTech tool is free, whether it needs to have a tenancy, which is a school kind of deployment model, if it's got single sign-on. And the other thing is that you don't really want people to spend their own money. I think it's really wrong when you have teachers that are being expected to use their own money. It's just absolutely wrong. But if a school district wants a trial, they should be encouraged to then get in touch with the tool and say, "We love this. Can we open doors and speak to the right people that might be in the IT security team that want you to make sure that you've ticked where your servers are or whatever."
And well, what is an EdTech tool or a community, or even outside a community outside of EdTech that you really admire?
Oh, I really loved the Google Education Group Ohio. Eric Kurtz, Stephanie Howell, they've done a really good job with that. And it was really grassroots. So the Google Education Groups were actually a really, really nice model that Google for Education implemented. I worked for them in 2017, 2018, when I came out of education and started working in the industry. And the successful components of the Gig Ohio is that it's not just about Ohio. They have regular get-togethers. There's minutes recorded. It's that kind of Petra culture, nano presentations. There used to be ones in Scot. It was originated in Scotland actually, called Teach Meets, and it was always a bit underground, a little bit woo, a little bit way. Come and talk about this, and that was really attractive and really exciting. It felt like, particularly for teachers who can quite feel quite lonely in schools when they might not be, they might be embracing something new and they're frightened to share that in their schools, that having the Google Education groups was a really nice way of bringing people together and say, it's okay, you can talk about that here and we can show you it in practice. And so the Geg Ohio was a really nice one, that I've really liked to see how that grew. And I mentioned the EdTech Roundup. That was like 20 years ago, which is just like crazy. But that again, it was regular. There was no pressure. You could drop in, drop out. It was all about sharing, sharing and caring, and
Hmm.
just being free to kind of share your thoughts. And for many people, you know, who maybe felt that they didn't have the opportunity to do that in their own lives, to have those communities to come together and be able to share was really, really lovely. So yeah, EdTech Roundup and the Gig Ohio have been communities that I admire.
Yeah. Okay, and then a final question. Um, some word of final advice maybe to like the people listening. That can be founders, can be educators, learners even, that want to start a community in education or edtech. What would you tell them?
I would start with something unique as kind of concept. Put it out there, share it. Don't be afraid to share it in other communities and say, like, I'm building something, come and play in my community. Don't feel afraid to buddy up. I don't think there is competition. I don't ever really see competition. It's all kind of diversity. Also, don't get too hooked into kind of one proprietary product. People like to play in different communities, so don't be afraid to kind of change and roll with it. But yeah, start a group, start a blog, start a website, start a podcast, start a webinar, start a WhatsApp group. Doesn't really matter what it is. It's just get it out there, and we'd join it, wouldn't we? If someone's starting something and they
Yeah.
want to invite us onto it, we'd be happy to be part of it.
Either way, just share it and don't be afraid, I think.
It's never not the right time to start something. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for all of this. I think I learned a lot from it. So thanks for all of the pieces of advice that you gave, whether that's for students or for founders or for educators. It was great.
Thanks, Friso. Really happy to talk anytime about these kinds of things. Yeah, if anyone wants to connect with me, they can connect with me on LinkedIn.